Is it permissible to attend an SSPX chapel regularly? Different authors I've read are of the opinion that the SSPX's dissent from certain teachings in Vatican II constitutes a grave disobedience to the papacy.
Well, as far as Benedict XVI was concerned, the areas, and this, by the way, if you wanted to look it up, is his Christmas address to the Curia in 2005. As far as he was concerned, the areas where they dissent are the areas where Vatican II changed prior teaching. Had to do with the Church's relationship with the modern world, with modern science, and with other religions. That before Benedict wrote this, you weren't supposed to notice this had happened, or you'd be a bad person. But he noticed it had happened and pointed it out. He said that the areas where these things had changed were not in themselves defined dogma. But you see, if that's the case, if they're not defined dogma, then neither of the changes define dogma. You see?
Yeah.
In other words, is the nature of the moon defined dogma?
No.
No. Now, if one set of popes have said the moon's made of rock, another set come along and say, no, 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 it's made of green cheese. Is the authority of the papacy at stake?
Okay, well, what if we ditch the metaphor in in some of the things that they're talking about? I mean, is that really an accurate parallel?
Yeah, I think so. Because from a question of defined dogma, it becomes a question of mere fact, a mere historical fact. And if that's what it is, then the question is not acceptance or dissonance from it, deciding whether or not you're a good Catholic, but simply whether or not you're correct in what your perceptions are. So I repeat, if prior to a certain time the popes had taught in a non-infallible manner, which according to Benedict this was non-infallible matter, other people would say otherwise, but if they taught in a non-infallible manner that the moon was made of rock, well, this can be changed. And it was. We now believe it's green cheese. However, that change in itself is not infallible.
Okay.
So if you say, well, actually it's rock.
Yeah.
You're saying it's rock or green cheese, it doesn't make you a good or a bad Catholic.
Okay.
Because it's not a dogmatic question according to Pope Benedict. What matters is the actual correctness of the thing itself.
Okay.
Now, this is kind of fine, I know, but it's important to bear in mind. If what he was saying about those teachings are true, and those are precisely the teachings in which the SSPX differ from the Holy See's current configuration, then you really can't penalize the SSPX for dissenting from them. And in fact, an interesting theologian from Australia, John Lamont, made a very interesting point. He said 85% of Vatican II is simply a repetition of prior teaching. And nobody doubts the SSPX acceptance of that 85%. The 15% of new stuff, that very new stuff that Benedict said is not infallible anyway, that's where the problem lies. But, said Lamont, isn't it funny that nobody has a problem with tons of bishops and seminary heads dissenting from that 85% the SSPX accept? And they do. Whether it's the virgin birth or the necessity of baptism, they dissent right up and down the mark.
Okay.
So, no. To dissent from Vatican II on those points, which is certainly not an act of disrespect toward the papacy. Now, the question as to whether or not
is it permissible to regularly attend it?
Well, my response to that is twofold. Cardinal Burke recently said that they're in schism. Well, again, that's not quite what I get from Pope Benedict, much as I respect Cardinal Burke. But if he's correct, then Canon 844 allows one to receive from Orthodox, Polish National, any church that has valid orders.
What canon?
844.
844.
For any good reason whatsoever. That good reason to be determined presumably by the communicant.
Okay.
That's if they're out of the church. Now, if they're not out of the church, Canon 1333 allows any priest, regardless of what censures have been placed upon him, to give the sacraments or any act of governance, as it says, when asked by a member of the faithful. So
Okay.
if they're in the church, 1333. If they're out of the church, 844.
There you go.
You know, again, in response to my fence-sitting person last time, I'm sorry if that doesn't give you what you want, but, you know.
Okay.